Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be reacting to a segment from a recent interview that Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan, recently did with the Reagan Foundation at their economic forum. In this video, he's basically talking about how, even though in the media right now, China's basically being portrayed as the enemy or a potential threat to the United States, he sees it that they may actually be a potential adversary for us. And in actuality, he sees other potential threats from within inside the United States that can actually cause harm to the government and the country. So I kind of want to jump right into it. With that being said, let's get the video started.
There's a lot to get to in this conversation. So I figured we'd start small, and then I would ask you just a really basic, straightforward question, and that is, what's your biggest worry right now?
Yeah. So first of all, thrilled to be here. I'm glad you're doing this. I hope we may join the defense forum you guys do every year too. And look, the way I look at it, the big picture is the tectonic plates are shifting. We got to get our heads wrapped around that. Those tectonic plates are the geopolitics with these terrible wars, terrible proxy terrorist activity around the world, North Korea, the potential proliferation of nuclear weapons over time, which is the greatest threat to mankind. And then you have the other tectonic shift is the global economy. So the global military umbrella of America, and then the global economy, of which trade is a part. You know, the other parts are do people want to partner with you? Do you have your alliances? Do you have investment agreements? And all those various things, and they're changing. And then our debt, which you just heard a bunch of folks talk about eloquently, it's large, and it's not just us. We added $10 trillion in 5 years. We have, you had Reagan up there talking about deficits. The debt to GDP was 35%, and the deficit was 3.5%. Today it's 100% debt to GDP net, and a deficit of almost 7%, highest peacetime ever.
All right, and to put what he just said in simplest terms, saying that we have 100% debt to GDP as a country basically means that the amount of products or cash flow that the amount that we're actually producing or making is equal to the amount that we actually owe in debt. And if the amount that you have that you're making is equal to the amount that you owe in debt, or is equal to the interest that you're paying on your debt, basically is almost impossible for you to get out of debt unless you can find some new way to increase your GDP, your income. But as it sits, our debt level is equal. The amount that we're paying in debt is equal to the amount that we're making in general, which is a problem.
CBO does their numbers, which I don't really trust, by the way. They should do the stress test. Like, what happens if we go into a recession? That 7% will be 10%. And so we have problems, and we got to deal with them.
And also keep in mind, he just mentioned that the current deficit is about 7%. If I'm not mistaken, interest rates are at about 5%. So if the amount of money that we're making on bonds, or the amount of money that we're making on interest is actually lower than the amount that we have to pay out in debt interest, that means that technically our debt interest is going to keep adding to the total debt over time, causing the debt to grow without it being paid, which is an even bigger problem.
And then the biggest one, underlying both of that, is the enemy within. I'm not as worried about China. China is a potential adversary. They're doing a lot of things well. They have a lot of problems. What I really worry about is us. Can we get our own act together, our own values, our own capability, our own management? What you heard today on stage was the amount of mismanagement is extraordinary. By state, by city, for pensions, and that stuff is going to kill us. And, I always get asked this question, are we going to be the reserve currency? And no. If we are not the preeminent military and the preeminent economy in 40 years, we will not be the reserve currency. That's a fact. Just read history. Now I think we will be. Warren Buffett here would tell you we're enormously resilient. I agree with that. I think this time is different. This time we have to get our act together. We have to do it very quickly.
I agree with him, and I think a really, really big part about it is greed from different organizations. And what I mean by that is you have a lot of organizations who lobby congressmen or lobby Congress in general. Each one of these congressmen or congresswomen, they're lobbying for their own particular sector, meaning that they want what's best for their sector. They're lobbying for what's best for their sector, kind of irregardless of any other sector, because they want what's best for their sector. And if everybody's lobbying for what's best for their sector, everybody's doing what's best for them, what ends up happening is what's best for the whole, or what's best for the country, was best for the full unit, usually doesn't happen, because right now we're spending so much money giving everybody what they want that we can't pay our bills, and it's hard as a country to say no to any one of those groups because we've been doing it so long. If we cut one group off, they're going to be mad about something. But at the same time, if we don't start cutting back, we're going to see where our country is basically going to go bankrupt.
That was a big answer. There's a lot to dig into there. So the takeaway is geopolitics.
I have a great quote
right?
for the first thing, too. Someone said the government spends like a drunken sailor, and someone else said, no, a drunken sailor spends his own money. I forgot who said that one.
So you're talking about a total realignment of the global order. We're talking about a restructuring and simultaneous reassertion of American hegemony in the middle of all this. Huge gamble afoot right now with some of the policies that are coming out and how they're taking shape. What does it take for it to pay off?
You know, I just a list of stuff. Okay, we have to acknowledge the grievances that have put us in this position to start with, and they're real. Okay, immigration. What the hell were we doing? You know, the bottom 20% of our population. You know, their wages didn't go up for 20 years. They're dying 7 years younger. You know, when administrations, you know, the Biden administration is giving all this money to EVs and cars and wasting a lot of money on green stuff, which isn't going to work, and all that. Do you think people in rural cities, do you think people in inner cities thought they were getting anything? Do you think that those people think that the American government is fair and competent and that this was in their best interest? Their schools don't work. They're not getting the skills they need. And you heard that just now. So we got to acknowledge it.
Kind of imagine that. Imagine if they're giving out tax cuts for EVs, but you live in a place where there's no EV charging stations and you don't have a garage. You really can't get an EV. You don't benefit from that tax credit. So that was money basically given out for the government, from the government, that, you know, guaranteed wouldn't benefit you. I'm pretty sure there's other people in other situations for a lot of stuff who get left out with different things, but he's making a good point with this.
I also call it blue tape, because, you know, Republicans generally don't like red tape. You understand the devastation of it, but, you know, most Democrats, they love it. They want more of it, and they want to make it so confusing you can't even meet the rules, so you get punished and fined afterwards. And so, you know, and then you have in permitting, and, you know, I call the government the Leviathan that's too weak, can't get stuff done, and too strong, and imposes things on the American public that they're getting sick of. And they should be getting sick of it, and acknowledge that. Celebrate our virtues: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, equal opportunity, family, God, country. You know, and you can acknowledge the flaws that we have, which are extraordinary. We did the black population for years. Don't denigrate the great things of this country, because those are two different things. If you have in any team, if you put a team on the field and the team's torn apart, they're going to lose. And that's kind of us right now. You know, we're not a team anymore, and we don't collaborate. We don't talk that much to each other. Deal with our policies, and this is the enemy within. We've got to fix our permitting, our regulations, our immigration, our taxation, which I think they're on their way. We have to fix our inner city schools, our healthcare system. If we fix those things, we grow 3% a year, and all these problems will disappear. But the most important is maintain those military alliances, spend whatever you got to spend to have the strongest military in the world, and keep. And I think I'm hoping the goal of the Trump administration is this: keep the Western military alliances together. If the world cannot rely on America's military umbrella, we may have paid too much, we have not done it. If the world can't rely on it, they are going to be looking for alternatives. Only one other real alternative out there.
He's saying to spend more on the military, and I get where he's coming from. But me personally, I think the military needs to get more efficient. I think a lot of money that goes to the military ends up being spent on private contractors, and those private contractors overcharge. A lot of those private contractors are friends with different government officials, so they kind of take the money and do whatever. They write it off on vacations and all that kind of stuff. So I understand where he's coming from with spending money to make sure we have a strong military. That way we can help our adversaries maintain those relationships. I get that completely, but I think we need to do that in a manner that's a lot more efficient than what we're currently doing.
Or get a nuclear weapon, and then maintain and expand and grow our economic alliances. We have tons of treaties, economic treaties, We do a terrible job in development finance, but expand that. The goal, beating up Europe, the goal should be help Europe get stronger. We know what their problems are. Keep them closer. Do the trade agreements and the investment agreements that'll keep the Western world together. Those two things will keep the world safe and free for democracy. If we don't do those things, the world is not safe and free for democracy. And so that's what we have to do. And people know what they are. We've all written about it. We just have failed to actually do it.
All right, so I think that about ends that for that segment. I do have a few more portions of his interview that he did with the Reagan Foundation that I do want to put out. I'll be putting those videos out probably before the end of this week, maybe about 4 or 5 videos within the next week. Just taking segments that I think were really interesting from his interview and, reacting to it with you guys. If you like what you saw in this video, let me know. We'll actually like the video. If you have any questions, any concerns, anything that you want to let me know, put that down in the comments below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.